Welcome to the Baseball Insiders, the only baseball podcast that accurately predicted that Alec Thomas would hit a solo home run to cut the Brewers' lead to 2-1. That we didn't get almost any of it. We got like half of it right, but it's all good. I am Adam Weinrib alongside Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray to talk about the game three. They're all over. The wild card round is done. And dud, probably not the right way to put it. It was fun. I enjoyed myself. The AL East got way thinner in the postseason picture, but we got a gap now between Thursday, Friday, no baseball. Saturday, the baseball comes back. And so Robert and I will talk today about the next steps for these teams that saw themselves eliminated maybe a little quicker from the postseason than they expected. What's up, Robert Murray? How you doing?
I'm great, man. Good to finally be back. I appreciate everyone's patience while I was away. I had to take care of some stuff back at home, but here now. Wild card round was about as fast as you could possibly imagine. Plenty of takeaways from that, but how about them Arizona Diamondbacks, by the way? Your Arizona Diamondbacks, Mr. Adam Weinrib. Unbelievable. Did not see that coming. I thought the Brewers were going to sweep them, and then they were like, no, Robert, we're going to sweep the Brewers, and now they're about to go play the Los Angeles Dodgers. And what should be a very interesting series. There's going to be a lot of good series coming up in this next round. And we're going to dive right into that, aren't we, Adam?
Yes, we are. And guess who made money on the Diamondbacks all year, but then did not pick them to beat the Brewers or put money on it? Boom. My profiting days are over. But if yours aren't, if you want to take the next step this postseason and create an account with DraftKings, we've got a new promo for you from those fine folks over at DraftKings. They are the sponsor of today's episode. What up, baseball fans? See, they even sent you guys a nice message. DraftKings is running a postseason promotion that you will not want to miss. New users can place a $5 first bet to instantly claim $200 in bonus bets. You will also be rewarded with a separate no-sweat single-game parlay every single day when you opt in. All you have to do is sign up with our code BASEBALLINSIDER. Using our code BASEBALLINSIDER, it is right there on the screen, not only get to these great bonuses, but it also directly supports our podcast. If you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code BASEBALLINSIDER, maximize your first bets and parlays. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. There is nothing like a no-sweat bet. Thanks to the folks at DraftKings for sponsoring this show. Also, join the Discord if you aren't in it yet. Chat with Robert and I between shows. Get your questions out. We're going to be talking Padres a little bit later today, in part because of some folks in the Discord who were curious about how they could shed payroll this offseason. Apparently, the first step is running it back with Bob Melvin. Strange. We'll talk about that later. But get in the Discord if you aren't. Just become a YouTube member. The link is right there, and you'll be able to chat with us between shows and ask us questions. We're going to be going series by series today, of course, focusing on next steps, because this is the Baseball Insiders. The offseason is approaching, and it's fast approaching for a couple teams. We got some future player movement pieces to talk about. I think before we get into the playoffs, though, very quickly, Pete Alonso got Scott Boras'd this morning, and I feel like Justin, who is all over the Boras'd clients, and we're glad he's here in the comments today because we got another one. David Stearns is pretty clear that he views Pete as important in the Mets clubhouse, maybe put the kibosh on some of those trade rumors. But Scott Boras doesn't let extensions before free agency happen very often. So it does make you wonder, Pete's intentions have now been declared. The Mets' intentions have been declared. Any more likely he gets dealt? Less likely? I mean, what's the forecast for Alonso's next year?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if it makes a trade more likely. But what I can say is that it makes an in-season or an off-season extension almost impossible because Scott Boras is known throughout baseball as the guy who likes his players to establish their value on the open market. And I can't see him deviating from that. Alonso has made it clear that he wants to stay in New York. Like the Mets have made it clear that they want to keep him, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that this offseason. And he may very well enter next year with as like a with only 1 year left on his contract. And it's gonna be a big season for him because if he ends up balling out, we're looking at a very, very, very hefty contract. But I don't think the Mets are going to be in any hurry to move Alonso. I think he's here to. I think he's going to stay for this next year, but after that, especially with Boras as his agent now, it's pretty uncertain.
We'll be talking Mets a little bit later, too, when we talk Brewers, of course, because you can't talk about one org without the other these days. The questions are coming in fast and loose. We will certainly address those as well, so we appreciate everybody sticking with us. Let's go team by team and series by series, though, at least to start. And let's do the Rays before, obviously, a burner gets here. Maybe. I feel bad if he's still licking his wounds. 2-game sweep in Tampa, the Texas Rangers, with 2 former Yankees on the mound in Nathan Eovaldi and Jordan Montgomery, held the Rays to just 1 run. The other AL East teams that have been eliminated from the postseason already scored 2 combined runs across 4 games, and we'll get to both of them first. But this was a confusing Rays season that started as hot as possible with a 13-game winning streak and ended with under 100 wins and another first-round exit at home. So what does this offseason look like for the Rays? What do they have to address? And did this series tell you more about the eliminated Rays or the Rangers and that impressive starting pitching?
You know, it's a good question. And I think for me, it says more about the state of the Rangers than it does the Rays. And to start with the Rays, they were obviously missing Wander Franco. They were missing Shane McClanahan. And they were beat up. But that is no excuse because at this point of the year, a lot of these teams are banged up. And you look at the Rangers, they were without Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, who are arguably 2 of the best pitchers in baseball. Can even take out the word arguably in that because they are. And the Rays, like their offense that was so electric was relatively quiet. And that was a big issue in this series. And now they're going to end up entering an offseason where they got to figure out what exactly is the future like for Wander Franco, because nobody at this point knows. It's all up in the air as the investigation continues. What is Shane McClanahan's status? What I think probably their most pressing need, probably at catcher right now. And I think that's going to be something that they should address. I think center field could make some sense for them as well in trying to address that. And they're always going to end up looking for pitching. You look at, like, they're always going to look for pitching. I'll tell you that Zach Eflin signing in the offseason, I was critical of it at the time. Looks pretty good. So I think that's going to end up being the thing for them. But the Rangers, they are the team. They are a very scary opponent here. And their pitching looks really good. Obviously, you have Jordan Montgomery and Nathan Eovaldi, both very good pitchers. You have an offense that's very good. Evan Carter, extremely exciting. That series against the Baltimore Orioles is going to be awesome. It is. If it's not the best series, it's at least the second best series because I think Phillies Braves is going to be electric. But man, the Rangers, they look very good. And if there's ever a team that can upset the Orioles, the number 1 seed in the American League, I think it's them.
Yeah, Fangraphs has the Orioles as the least likely World Series champion of the final 8 teams. They give him just a 5.4% chance to win it all. The Braves, massively favored still. I believe it's 27.9. But that was telling because you would think sort of at this point that the 4 bye teams would be lined up in some order, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's Braves, Astros, and of course they got the bye, by the way. You weren't here to yell at that doomer Astros fan who was here 2 episodes ago when he was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about if you thought this team was going to skate into the postseason. Buddy, they got the 2 seed in the bye. I don't know what to tell you. You got to trust your team. But I love our fans. That guy's also great. Yeah, whatever. But they're the 2nd seed and they're the 2nd most likely champion. Dodgers 3rd. Fangraph says the Phillies are in 4th and knock the Orioles all the way back in a last place spot. Not a lot of faith in them, according to the number crunching. And the Rangers are coming in with momentum. They dispatched of the Rays fairly easily. But the Rays have not won a playoff series in quite a while. Other than 1-game wild card wins, they have not won a full series in the postseason since their 2008 World Series run. And
crazy.
Put them right up alongside the Blue Jays in that regard, who great, talented young team. Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette have lived up to the hype. They certainly invested in pitching and invested in the right pitching. They have not won an AL East title with this regime. They have not won a playoff game with this regime. And they go to Minnesota and get 2 games swept by a team that had not won a playoff series since 2002. Wow. I picked the Twins because I didn't think the Blue Jays were ready to shake off that recent history of failure. And the Twins looked fantastic. The Twins pitching was great, clutch hitting. Correa made winning plays. But the Blue Jays, for me, are the story here because they did it again. They did not hit, which we said all season long. You're really that confident in your offense? You get rid of Teoscar and Gurriel and trade Moreno. You're going all in on defense, and then when push came to shove, they pitched. They didn't hit, although Gausman got tattooed a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to wonder if they end up regretting those moves. Because at the time, I understood the logic in acquiring Dalton Varsho. Like, it looked like he was going to end up being one of baseball's next young stars. Yep. And instead, didn't necessarily work out that way. And then you have Gabriel Moreno break out. He looks like the catcher of the future in Arizona. Looked really good in that series against Milwaukee. You have Gurriel, who looks very good too. Put up good numbers in the regular season. It's tough. And then Teoscar Hernandez, I know he struggled a good amount in the first half of the season, but in the second half of the season, he put it like he was definitely showing some flashes. And you have to wonder if the Blue Jays regret that, but obviously you can't take back those moves now. And what you have to look at now is the uncertain future of what that Blue Jays team looks like. And obviously there's plenty of free agents on that roster. You're going to have Whit Merrifield. You're going to have Brandon Belt. You're going to have Hyun-Jin Ryu. Actually, I have a full list right here. You have, where is it? You got Matt Chapman as well, Jordan Hicks, and it's Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, it's a good list. There's a lot of good players on that list. But I think if you're going to look at the Blue Jays and what they're going to need to address this offseason, I think the first thing they got to ask is, what do you do at manager? What happened last night in taking the starting pitcher out who was cruising early into the game and then going to Kikuchi, who allowed 2 runs, which was the difference in the game. And you have players afterwards questioning the decision, and they didn't know what was going on. Even Jose Barrios did not necessarily know how to add it up. And I think that's something that the organization is going to have to ask themselves. And that's a really difficult question because they entered the season with really high expectations. They were really inconsistent throughout the entire regular season. And then the postseason came and they essentially crapped the bed. And I don't know what they're going to do. But I genuinely think that they need to consider moving on from their manager. And you got to think if they do, there's going to be plenty of people who are interested because that's one of the more attractive jobs in baseball.
And it was so recently that they ran Charlie Montoyo out of town to make this change to Schneider. Whit Merrifield pulled no punches last night. They asked him about what he thought about the Blue Jays taking Barrios out early. He said, "I hated it, frankly. It's not what cost us the game, but it's the kind of baseball decisions that are taking away from managers and baseball at this stage of the game." Does make you wonder whose plan that was, if that's another shot at the front office saying he took the power out of Schneider's hands. But that being said, that's a move you can't make for so many reasons. If you prefer the matchup slightly with Kikuchi, you have to let the hot hand ride. But even if you don't want to, even if you're tempted to make a jittery, way too early pitching move, you lost game 1, guys. If you win that second game, you have to play game 3. And you can't enter that with a short bullpen because you took a cruising starter out at 47 pitches. Exactly. I don't even want to hear the counter to this one.
No, me neither. To me, in the moment, watching that made 0 sense. And I've seen some weird stuff happen in postseason games. I remember when I was with when I was covering the Brewers, who were in the National League Championship Series against the Dodgers, where they had Wade Miley out there for one batter, and then they brought Brandon Woodruff in. Thought that was the weirdest thing I'd seen in a postseason game. Honestly, the logic was absolutely sound there with Craig Counsell and what he did. But this had it made no sense. It made no sense in the moment. You could see the writing on the wall, what was going to happen. And lo and behold, it cost them. But like, there were a lot of different things for the Blue Jays that led to that moment. But that was just a real head scratcher. And I could go with a lot stronger of a term there.
Yeah, we dogged the Rays first. I think just because mentally I was like, well, they were the first team eliminated, so let's go get after them. I thought the Blue Jays offensive performance was just as poor. They were on the road, but managerial performance quite poor. Gossman's start not good. The plan did not work, and this was and Vlad Jr. at second base getting picked off to end a rally on a timing play.
Brutal,
worse than anything that happened in any other series.
Yeah, because that was another one. There was so many different moments like throughout the regular season that just made you scratch your head with the Blue Jays. But that pitching or the pitching change after the third inning, head scratcher. But that Vlad Jr. where he got picked off because there was runners on second and third, and that was a key moment in the game, and you get picked off at second base. Like, what the hell? I mean, that's Canyon Swartz. He says he's got every one of his predictions wrong. I'm telling you, there cannot be many people who got every game right or every series right, because that was pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Canyon, you sound like you're quoting our preseason predictions episode. We also got them all wrong. But I got two of these series right. This one was I can't believe I got this one correct, but I just had a feeling that the Blue Jays were still a little bit too big for their britches and too confident for what they'd accomplished. And Minnesota, you can't lose playoff series forever. Finally got the Yankees out of their way. Ethan Fisher is right. Bichette was at the plate, full count. The runners had freshly moved over on a wild pitch. So, like, if the crowd was nervous with first and second 2 outs, then they were certainly nervous with second and third, and the Jays' hottest hitter at the plate. Full count pitch, had just lined one foul. And shout out to Carlos Correa's baseball instincts, which came to play on that pickoff play. Knew the Jays runners could not hear the third base coach because of the crowd. Shout out to Carlos Correa on the amazing play getting Bichette at the plate on that roller in game 1, 2. He was the big winner of this series, but that moment crystallized the whole thing. And even though it was still a 2-0 game, you kind of knew, unless you were the most pessimistic Blue Jays hater in the world who was anxious for whatever reason, that they were not going to come back and win that game.
Oh, yeah. Like right then and there, the game like after Vlad Jr. got picked off, it kind of felt like it was over. And what a disappointing end to a very disappointing season. And let me tell you, man, that organization has some serious questions to ask themselves. And the first one, as I said, is going to be asking themselves what to do with the manager. After that, a roster full of questions, a roster full of pending free agents. We're going to be a fascinating team to watch. That is for certain.
And, of course, Vlad Jr. gets picked off in sort of a season-deflating play. And what does he do? Immediately points at the dugout and asks them to challenge for like 3 minutes while lying on the ground. No, you were out.
Yeah, that's bad. Real bad. That's bad. That's all I can really say. It's bad.
We'll let the sleeping Blue Jays lie and move on to the National League, because the Brewers, I think, were probably the most shocking upset out of the first round. I don't know if everybody agrees, and the last-minute Brandon Woodruff injury certainly changed the calculus, but I still thought the Brewers – the injury was announced during our last show. So I went off about how I thought the Brewers were the most likely World Series participant in the wild card round. Not correct. I still, though, thought they would advance past the Diamondbacks. I didn't like Zach Gallen having to be used in game 2. I did not like that game 1 with Brandon Pfaadt. But then once the Diamondbacks fought through that one, you kind of started to smell it. They will be moving on to face the Dodgers. It's the 4th straight year the Dodgers will face an NL West opponent in the postseason.
Crazy.
We'll see how that works out beginning this weekend. But let's go Brewers first, because as the comment section has raged, Corbin Burns' arbitration hearing did not go fantastically last year. A lot of blame was pinned on his shoulders. He is now still Milwaukee property. He might be it's a huge question for any franchise, and he might not even be the most pertinent question in Milwaukee, a team that might be losing their beloved and decorated manager shortly. So you think a lot's up for grabs for the Blue Jays. The whole direction of this franchise is teetering.
Yeah, I hesitate to say it like this, but it kind of feels that way. It feels like this was the Brewers' last bite at the apple with this core group that they have, and they had one of the best young homegrown cores in baseball. You have well, I shouldn't say homegrown. That's not accurate. But you have Corbin Burns, you have Brandon Woodruff, you had Josh Hader, Devin Williams, Christian Yelich, Willie Adames. Entering the season, that looked like a really strong core, and that's been a big part of the foundation for quite a while. And this season, they had the feel, if their offense held up as a team that could make a deep postseason run. I even picked them to beat the Dodgers. That obviously was way off. And for a small market team, they are going to have to ask themselves a lot of different questions, especially when it comes to Corbin Burns and when it comes to Willie Adames, both who are going to be free agents after the 2024 season. And I don't know if the Brewers look to move them in the offseason. I think it's something that they're going to have to be open to, especially since Burns is one of the best pitchers in baseball. You could get a full haul for him, or a pretty good haul for him, considering he's got a full season left under contract. Adames is coming off of a disappointing season, so the return there is probably limited. But that being said, there are plenty of big market teams who have needs for a starting pitcher, especially an elite one. And there are plenty of teams that have a need for a shortstop. And two of those teams that just so happen to fit that bill would be the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves. And I know as a fact that last offseason, the Dodgers and Braves called the Brewers about Adames. And I'm wondering, is it possible that they could package them together? I don't know, but stranger things have happened. And the Brewers, if they package both of them together, they could get a haul that ends up guiding their next 5 years. It's going to upset a lot of people in that fan base because they just experienced it with Josh Hader, and they're probably going to have to experience it again with both Burns and Adames, because I got to imagine both of them are probably priced out of Milwaukee's budget. Burns more so than Adames, but if you can get a pretty sizable haul for those two in return, which odds are you can, I think the Brewers have to consider it, and I ultimately think they will. I just don't know if it's going to be in the offseason or if it's going to end up being in the regular season at the trade deadline. But their most pressing question as of right now is the status of Craig Counsell. And I have talked to plenty of different people in baseball who believe that he will probably not return to Milwaukee. That is not official. That is not we don't know exactly what is going to happen, but there's a lot of different people who expect Counsell to not return. And that is going to lead to a lot of different questions. Who could the Brewers replace Counsell with? There's plenty of different candidates. Obviously, an in-house one will be Pat Murphy. I don't know if they would do that. The name that I'm watching in Milwaukee is Stephen Vogt. I think that is a name who makes a whole lot of sense. And I remember when I was on the Brewers beat, there were people who even joked, in the Brewers organization, that Vogt would eventually replace Craig Counsell. And I wonder if it could end up being this year. I think he's a name that makes a whole lot of sense, and that is a name to watch. As for Craig Counsell, I don't necessarily know what his status holds, but I did have someone close to Counsell tell me this. If David Stearns and Steve Cohen come to him and offer him a 5-year deal for like 25 to 30 million bucks, how does he turn that down? I don't know. He was not willing to talk about his future last night, but it's something that he's going to have to address rather shortly. And I guess we're going to end up seeing what happens there, but that is a fascinating one. And if he does enter the free agent market, he would be easily the best manager available. And I got to imagine Cohen and Stearns would be calling his line rather quickly.
This is my favorite episode of this show since the trade deadline. I have so much information in my head that it has filled my skull and is leaking out of my ear. I just short-circuited like Vlad Jr. at second base because of information overflow. But I love the Stephen Vogt fit. And I actually saw a tweet this morning that theorized it started so innocently. It was like a lot of Mariners coaches should be seriously considered for openings this year, like Manny Acta. And I was just reading it like I read every tweet, like, it's a 6 out of 10 tweet. And then it mentioned Stephen Vogt. And I realized he was even on the Mariners staff and that he was old enough to manage and that he was a potential, qualified applicant for some of these open jobs. And I was immediately so happy I read the tweet, enlightened, and I'm so glad that you mentioned him now because that's an amazing fit. And Eric Kratz, bench coach, who says no? I don't know.
Dude, wouldn't that be wild? I'll tell you, Kratzy, that is a good human being right there. He to me, he should be a manager. I don't know when, but I think he should. But there's also this. I know we're going to get into the Bob Melvin question later on. But there's a comment here from Will Holder who says, until we hear from Bob Melvin, I am not convinced at all that he's coming back. I'm going to keep this answer very short and sweet. I am in the same boat. Something doesn't pass the smell test. I don't know what it is, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced at all.
Yeah, that's such a funny, because we had to talk about it. You had to talk about Bob Melvin, but nothing about it made sense. My dad is not a Padres fan, but he reached out this morning and didn't expect Bob Melvin to come back. I go, why are you 8 a.m.?
Yeah,
what's on your mind? But yeah,
I was floored when it was revealed that from Preller that he was coming back, because for weeks I had heard that the most likely scenario was that Melvin would probably not return, and all of a sudden Preller announces that he's coming back and that ownership is going to run it back. Like, obviously AJ Preller's word is as good as gold. He's got no reason to lie, especially when it comes to something like that. But I don't know. Something doesn't. I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. I guess we'll see. I have texts out right now, so we'll see what I get back. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's what's called a developing situation in this neck of the woods. And watch the show on Monday. Join the Discord. Become a member of the YouTube channel. Perhaps you will find out first, but we will certainly chase this story. Good instinct there, Will Holder. I hate to discount the Marlins. I hate to just sort of run past the Marlins, but I don't know. What do the eliminated Marlins have to change? They put together a pretty good roster. I have faith that they could do it again. The Philadelphia Phillies are a buzzsaw. Jeff Passan tweeted in the 6th inning yesterday, Braves Phillies will be fantastic. He was right. Everyone in America is excited for that series, or should be. Kudos to the Marlins. Josh Bell, Jake Berger, best midseason offensive pickups anybody made. I just kind of feel like, what do they have to change? They got to hope Sandy Alcantara's healthy. They got to keep their pitching. They got to make more shrewd moves like that. And then their ceiling is what we just saw. I don't know.
Yeah. For them, I give them credit for even getting to this point, because coming into the year, I did not have that on my radar whatsoever. I did not, because if you think about the Miami Marlins, it's basically kind of feel like an afterthought. If I feel like that might be a little harsh, but Kim Ng has done a wonderful job getting that roster back into the postseason contention. Skip Schumacher, very good job there as their manager. So they have the right people in place. And I think if you're looking at that roster, you need to make sure the pitching is up to par, especially with Alcantara's his 2024 season. What that kind of outlook is uncertain. Obviously, they signed Johnny Cueto after trading Pablo Lopez, and that clearly did not work out. He had an ERA of I believe it was over 6, and that signing just did not work from the get-go. And I think pitching is going to end up being probably their most pressing need. They have an infield logjam that could surely used. Maybe they end up moving somebody to address a different part of the roster, because they obviously did that with Pablo Lopez last year. And then you have the Josh Bell equation. What exactly that option? What he's going to do with the player option? Because when they acquired him, it looked like it was a sure thing that he would probably accept it. But now, after what he ended up doing in the second half, I mean, I think it's more up in the air than it was. Plenty of questions there, but like they're trending the right direction, and I think Kim Ng deserves a lot of credit for getting them to this point, because that was a tough job when she took over, but she's done a relatively good job, and I give her credit.
Do you know anything more than we do about her contract situation? Because I see Jason Parker wondering if she's a Red Sox fit. I've seen speculation that they weren't going to deal with that until after the season ended. I mean, I agree with Jason as well that it would be hard to imagine her not coming back to Miami. But is that at least somewhat up in the air for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I honestly haven't heard. So I would be lying if I said I had any answers there. But from what I gather, I think she probably stays. And I think some of the recent front office additions would probably indicate that it's trending in that direction, because they added Ozo Campo from the Houston Astros. Like, that was a monster move, a monster addition. If they're adding him, I think all signs point to her staying in Miami.
Well, that's it for that past wild card round. Rob Manfred tried to extend the postseason, and he did it by like a day. So congrats. Maybe next year it won't all be sweeps. Before we go, got a couple rapid fire firings to address potential replacements. People who've left their position since the last time that we spoke, and some comments addressing recent vacancies as well. So I want to make sure that we get at least a quick assessment of all of these. First and foremost, just those Red Sox. I know they're going to be interviewing candidates next week. I believe I saw in the comments reiterating that too. So my question is, who will be the Red Sox GM who signs Shohei Ohtani? Because we know they're getting him. So who's going to sign him?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Wait, sorry, I got a text.
I snuck that one right past you. I said, I guarantee the Red Sox get Ohtani. And you smiled and nodded. So unfortunately, that's reality now.
Yeah, that is not reality. That is not reality. But I'll tell you, that Ohtani guy, his market's gonna be pretty interesting in the offseason, isn't it? Now,
good baseball player.
Yeah, he's pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, good hitter, good pitcher too when he's healthy. So, but yeah, wait, hang on. What am I supposed to? Are we talking about Kapler or what are we?
No. So I was gonna do the Red Sox front office candidates first, because we had a comment asking about potential interviews.
Yeah, honestly, like the guys that I thought would be fits there in Boston were Mike Hazen, Amiel Sade, and some of the guys with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And not only did the Diamondbacks extend Hazen, but I am under the impression too that they extended Sade. So that would seem to rule out both of those guys. Other than that, I honestly have not heard much about the search. It's been relatively quiet. I think that's what they ended up wanting. But they got to get this hire right. And I wonder exactly, like, obviously the Boston Red Sox, that is a big time job opening. And leading that franchise, considering its history, is like it's an attractive job. But they're going to probably have payroll restrictions. They kept some of their front office people in like high ranking roles. So like the new president of baseball operations or whoever leads their front office is not going to have all of their people in there, and there's going to be other voices. And I wonder how attractive that is. And there's other different factors too that makes me wonder exactly like what kind of candidate they're going to be able to attract. But I have not heard of any names. But for as attractive as that job is, there's certainly some red flags.
But there will be fewer when they sign Shohei Ohtani, which they are guaranteed to do. So we'll see. No, I don't know. I can only connections there. Who knows? New Balance ain't moving. New Balance stays in Boston. I had a commercial stuck in my head. I had a song stuck in my head for like 2 weeks, and then I realized it was the Ohtani New Balance commercial, and I got so mad at myself. I was like, a commercial got in my head for that long. I was just walking around the apartment going, "There we go together." And I was like, God, that's a literal commercial. Like, marketing works. So who knows?
It does.
Let's do managerial vacancies real quick too before we hop off. Gabe Kapler fired, which I think surprised both of us. Farhan Zaidi is still in place, but contract has not yet been extended. So 2024 feels like a large year for him. Yeah, I for one didn't see Kapler coming, and I certainly didn't see it coming with 3 days left in the regular season. But I don't know if you're eyeing any names there.
No, I'll tell you, Kai Correa, he did a good job. There's a lot of player support for him within that organization. I wonder if that's going to end up getting him an interview. Another one that I had heard that has organizational support is actually their farm director, Kyle Haynes. I saw John Heyman mention him the other day, and I think that is correct. I don't know if he's going to get an interview, but I have absolutely heard there's player support for Haynes in the organization. I thought, to me, the best fit for that job was going to be Bob Melvin. He's got ties to Farhan Zaidi, and I thought he's going to end up being a free agent. I thought the Padres were going to let him go and he'd be able to go wherever, but it did not obviously work that way. And, well, I guess we'll still TBD on exactly what's going to happen with Melvin. But the Giants, this is a very, very, very important hire for that organization. And if you look at it, probably ownership is very likely going to be involved in this thing because this is a massive hire. And it makes you wonder if they can end up trying to go for like a flashier kind of hire or a PR, like one that's going to win PR. I don't necessarily know who that could be because the list of candidates as of right now, not too inspiring. Although if Craig Counsell is a free agent, then all bets are off. But I have not heard any Counsell Giants smoke at all. But yeah, I think this is going to be probably a PR hire, or not. I shouldn't say PR, but I think they're going to try for a flashy hire, and one who's going to be able to try to recruit players to San Francisco. And you got to imagine they have Shohei Ohtani on their minds because they missed on a star last year when they pursued Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa, and I can't imagine they're going to let Shohei Ohtani sign elsewhere without giving it their best shot.
Well, if they do promote Correa, I expect the introductory press conference will be canceled morning of, and then he'll end up managing the Minnesota Twins somehow. So we'll, yeah.
Can you imagine? Jesus, I'll tell you that. Oh God. Yeah. Oh boy.
I hope Kai Correa has stable ankles. That's all I have. I don't know anything about his physicality, but I hope he's recently gotten those examined. Good
dude. He looks like he'd be nimble on his feet. So who knows? But yeah, looks like a good dude.
Also, Phil Nevin was somewhat officially let go by the Angels. Real quick, just I've internet smoke is strange. I've seen Mike Puma, say that Buck Showalter is aggressively pursuing that job. So we're definitely in a kooky corner of the universe when it comes to the Angels managerial gig. But do we have any idea what kind of player they're targeting in? I think this offseason could be correctly labeled a transition offseason for them.
It is. It's a big time transition offseason. I saw the same Mike Puma report, and I haven't heard anything there. But I do think with the state of that organization and they're transitioning after going all in this year and failing miserably, they're keeping Perry Manassian there as their GM. My gut tells me a strong candidate there is going to be Ray Montgomery, their bench coach. I thought when they ended up moving him to their bench coach role out of the front office that he was going to end up being a manager in waiting. Heard nothing but great things about him for years when he was with the Brewers, when he was with the Diamondbacks, and now with the Angels. Like, he's somebody who is highly respected in that organization, and I think he is going to be someone who garners quite a bit of attention there. But as far as other names, I haven't heard Buck Showalter, but if he's showing interest, I think the Angels at least have to interview him. And I haven't heard of any other names, but I think those are two probably to watch there.
Well, we'll keep watching all offseason long, but we've got more postseason action on the horizon. Robert, again, powerhouse show, powerhouse return from you. Information superhighway. We're going to have a lot to talk to you about on Monday, too. We're going to learn more about a couple of big playoff behemoths and their fate. Can the Dodgers hold serve against the upstart Diamondbacks? Will the Braves be as impressive as they look during the regular season, or is it another red October in Philadelphia? So much great action on the horizon, even if the wildcard series were just kind of okay. And we appreciate everybody joining us to wrap these up, give these teams a little insight on next directions for eliminated squads. We're going to have a special guest on Monday, too. I believe so, and not Monday. Actually, I believed wrong. The show is Tuesday. Monday's a holiday. Enjoy it with your family and friends, and then we'll see you on Tuesday with a special guest and some playoff results. Robert, this was fantastic.
Yeah, this was a great show. See everybody Tuesday. We'll also, I just want to say thank you very much for all the active comment section as well. This was a very active comment section. Appreciate you all. I also appreciate all the notifications I'm getting from people who are aggregating the podcast. So that is always great because I look down and my phone keeps lighting up with Twitter or X notifications of people setting my different stuff. So to all you aggregators out there, I appreciate you too. Just make sure you quote me properly. That's all I ask. I don't ask for much, but I ask for that, please. But Adam, always a pleasure. Joanne, who's producing this podcast, does a lovely job. We appreciate you. All the commenters appreciate you. Adam, we'll see you Tuesday.
We'll see you Tuesday. Has anybody aggregated me saying that Ohtani to Boston yet? Because if you guys haven't, get on it. I'll aggregate me too.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, if you break that news, Adam, I will legitimately. Well, I was gonna say I'll eat this microphone, but I'll eat this. Yeah, I mean that probably wouldn't digest very well. But if you break the Ohtani,
you heard it here first, folks. Robert's gonna eat some sort of small nub from his computer equipment.
Well, this podcast is going off.
Don't aggregate that. If you didn't see the video, you know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. I got no comments. Oh boy. Yeah.
Sign me off. Get me out of here. Join the Discord if you haven't. Subscribe to the show if you haven't. We're here every Monday, Thursday, typically 3:30 Eastern. Next week, the holiday Monday. Of course, we'll be right back at it on Tuesday. Oh man, hell of a show. Thanks to producer Joanne. Thanks to Robert. Thanks to the commenters. A healthy squad today. Like Robert said, you guys are the lifeblood of the show. Wouldn't have it without you. And this was a great one, and I expect Tuesday is going to be more of the same.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing but the best from this pod. We got to love it, baby.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday. We appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.